Hollywood. It's time now for... Johnny Dollar.
George Reed here.
Well, good morning, George.
Bad morning, Johnny.
What's the matter?
You remember Jediah Gillis?
Eccentric old man loves animals? Sure.
Well, for the second time, he's talked us into issuing a special coverage policy on an item he wanted insured.
And for the second time, it's disappeared, huh?
Right.
I hope it's not another singing mouse.
I'm afraid it's something worse. An articulate canine.
I take it a what?
Dog, Johnny.
And I take it a... You mean a talking dog?
Yep.
Oh, no. Bob Bailey in the exciting adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. It's different. I didn't know about mice. I do know about dogs. And I've never heard one yet that could say anything but rough.
Well, maybe you haven't, but Michael Murphy has.
Michael Murphy?
Iron Mike Murphy, vice president of Milford Steel.
Oh, what's he got to do with this?
Well, he's the former owner of the articulating canine.
Gillis bought the dog from him?
According to this application, he did.
When did it happen?
Oh, about 3 weeks ago. First I heard of it was when Gillis called from New York asking for the coverage.
How much insurance does he have on the critter?
The maximum we'd allow, $7,500.
75. Oh, no, George. That's hardly worth my time. I can't make any commission from a small policy like that. Why don't you pay him off and forget it?
I'd like to, Johnny, but it isn't that simple.
No?
No. Since you found his mouse, Gillis thinks you're some kind of a miracle worker.
Oh, Pied Piper, you mean. Or Pie-Eyed something or other.
Anyway, the boys upstairs have agreed to let you write your own ticket again, providing...
Yeah?
Providing you locate the dog. Or in the event you don't, you pacify Gillis. Keep him happy so that he doesn't cancel his other policy.
And if I can't do either?
Then you wind up with your regular commission and expense account, which our auditors will check and double-check.
A real sucker bet. But okay, George, you've got yourself a deal. Expense account item 2, 85 cents cab fare back to my apartment. Item 3, $26, transportation Hartford to New York City, including cab fare to the Statler Hotel. By the time I checked in, changed my shirt, it was 8:30. I picked up the phone and called the number George Reed had given me.
Hello?
May I speak to Mr. Gillis, please?
Johnny Dollar. Dad told me you were coming.
Well, hi.
Hi, is that all? I guess this is Marion.
Yeah, I know. I had a hunch your father was staying at your place.
Do you have my address?
Sure have. 514 East 51st Street.
Apartment 4C.
Oh, yeah.
Now, you get right over here before everyone leaves.
Everyone? Who all's there?
Well, just friends. It's a celebration.
What kind?
I'll tell you when you get here. Now, hurry.
Right. Expense account item 4, $1.70 taxi from the Statler to the East 51st Street address. The entrance to the building faced toward Beekman Place, and one side of it looked out over the East River. I could hear the noise from apartment 4C before I stepped off the elevator. Marion had a good many friends, which figured because of her blonde hair, gray eyes, and a few other... Well, yeah. I pressed the buzzer and waited. I was about to press it again when a door opened further off down the hall.
Hi.
Oh, Marion.
Here, Johnny. I hope you don't mind sneaking into the kitchen. But Dad made it very clear that he wants to see you now and alone.
Alone? Was that mob in there?
He's waiting for you in the den. It's this way. How have you been?
Oh, fine, just fine. Sounds like quite a party.
It is. I sent out the invitations before the pup disappeared. I offered to call it off, but Dad wouldn't let me.
Any special kind of celebration?
I think so. It's to announce my engagement.
Well, what do you know? Who's the lucky man?
His name's Bill Fisher. He's an executive with the Powers advertising agent.
Real big-time operator, huh?
He just talked one of his clients into putting on a new TV show.
Well, you know you have all my good wishes.
Oh, Bill, we were just talking about you.
I wondered where you disappeared to.
Bill, this is Johnny Dollar.
Hi, congratulations. You're getting a fine girl.
Yes, I think so.
Thunderation, what's all this? Oh, it's Dollar, so you finally decided to get here.
Hello, Mr. Gillis.
Come in.
Yes, sir.
We'll see you later, Johnny.
Yes, sure.
Yeah, you ready to go to work?
Yes, sir, whenever you are.
Whenever I am. You're the one's getting paid to be a detective.
Well, I can't do my job without your cooperation, Mr. Gillis.
Well, what do you want me to do?
Answer a couple of questions.
Just answer, well, didn't that sweet pea of an agent tell you all you need to know?
Well, he couldn't. He didn't know anything except that a dog you have insured.
A dog? A dog, you say? Is that what you call her? Why, you miserable cold-hearted... A dog.
Well, isn't that what you've lost, Mr. Gillis?
No! And don't you ever let me hear you calling that... She's a little lady. If you must refer to the type of being she is, well, she's a canine.
Okay. Do you mind telling me under what circumstances the canine disappeared?
I wouldn't mind at all. And please call her Ming Toy.
Beg your pardon?
Ming Toy, that's her name. Ming Toy Murphy. What's the matter, you dog? Are you deaf?
No, isn't that kind of an unusual name for a dog? A canine?
Oh, you think so? Shows how stupid you are. She's a Chinese.
Chinese?
Yes, a Pekingese. A Pekingese. And being as the first owner's name was Murphy, the whole thing, Ming Toy Murphy, just fits her to a T.
Yeah. Now, exactly when did you notice Ming Toy was missing?
Oh, since we got back from breakfast, you see, I'd left Ming Toy in here, locked up safe and sound, but when we got back, the door was standing open.
The front door?
No, not to this door.
And Ming Toy was gone?
Of course she was gone. That's what all this fuss is about.
But the front apartment door was closed.
It was, and somebody's come in here and stolen her. They had sense enough to close the front door when they left.
You're, for sure somebody did steal.
I don't know what to think. All I know is Ming Toy missing. Canine animals like her don't grow on trees.
Oh, well, you mean because of her, special talent?
Well, now you're getting it, my boy, yes. Because she can talk.
Oh, now, Mr. Gillis, can you honestly say you've heard her speak?
Speak? Well, man, all dogs can speak. But Ming Toy talks.
Just like a human being, I suppose.
Yeah. I see you don't believe me. Well, you just march yourself over here to this tape recorder.
Oh, Mr. Gillis, if she can talk like you say, it's still going to take me a while to kind of get used to that.
You and the whole country, providing we get her back.
The whole country?
TV, boy.
What?
Television. A new show called The Big Shock. The first one's on tomorrow night. What's the matter? Don't you read the papers? Anyway, they started advertising about 2 weeks ago. Looking for a dog that could say, Happy Hollow Dog Food is yum, yum, yummy.
Happy Hollow Dog Food?
That's the company sponsoring the show.
Go on.
They're going to open their show with the animals saying that slogan, you see. And today I was going to take Ming Toy down there and let her say it and collect the $50,000.
What's $50,000?
The $50,000 they're offering to give for a dog that can say, Happy Hollow
Okay,
Dog
Mr.
Food.
Gillis. All right, I know.
Yes, well, anyway, when I first heard about this, I remembered Mike Murphy said something to me over a year ago about having a canine in his kennel that could talk some. So I went over there 3 weeks ago, and I bought her.
Was the ad in the paper at that time?
Of course it wasn't.
Well, how did you know it was going to be?
Marion told me.
How did she know?
That dressed dummy she's fixing to marry. The advertising agency he works at, they're the ones that taught the Happy Hollow people into putting on that show.
Oh, I see.
Well, you see, it's about time.
I also see that you don't exactly approve of Fisher for a son-in-law.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I don't approve. I don't disapprove of him. If she wants to marry a stuffed shirt, that's her business. Let me play this tape recording for you. You're going to hear the sweetest little voice this side of China.
Ah, now then, me little pet.
You see,
Yourself set and ready
we
for the
made
class.
this at Mike Murphy.
All right, girl. Now talk to me. Pretty now. Talk pretty. Hello! Hello, everybody!
Hey, see? She said hello.
That's a dog?
It's canine. Be quiet.
Very good, lad. Now tell me, how are you feeling these fine days?
Hey, what happened?
She saw a cat. What do you think?
Oh.
You still doubt she can talk, Nello?
I think I'd like to see it with my own eyes. Have you put an ad in the lost and found columns of the papers?
Of course.
What about the people in this building?
Then I had Morris. He's the super. Put a note.
Super?
The janitor. They call him supers in the city. So what's the matter? Don't you know anything about it? I had to put a notice in each apartment telling them to be on the lookout for her. But so far, nobody said a word. And naturally, they wouldn't because she's not around here. She's been stolen.
Oh, now, look, why would anyone want to steal her? They couldn't put stolen property
Well,
on TV.
maybe it could have been somebody doing it for spite.
Like who?
Yes, like Iron Mike Murphy. That's who. He's been saying nasty things to me, claiming I cheated him out of Ming toy.
Well, did you?
Of course I did.
Mr. Gillis, is there any other possible way she could have gotten out of this room?
Well, now, there's several... Oh, no.
Huh?
No, it hurts me just to think about it. Oh, dear. That window.
Window?
Yes. Oh, dear.
Was that open yesterday morning?
Yes, it was open. I forgot to close it. Oh, dear.
Well, what's down below there?
Nothing but the East River.
I continued questioning him, making sure he'd given me all the facts. Then, after promising to take him along when I visited Iron Mike Murphy, I said goodnight and left. Expense account item 5, $1.70 for a cab back to my hotel. The next morning, I called Murphy and wangled an invitation to his Long Island home. At exactly 9 o'clock, I was in front of the Gillis apartment.
Hey, Mister.
Yeah?
You looking for Mr. Gillis?
No, Mr. Gillis. You seen him?
Sure. When they go out to put their breakfast.
Oh, yeah, I see. Do you pick up the trash and garbage from the apartments every morning?
That's my job, senor.
Well, what time do you usually hit this floor?
The same time as now, about 9 o'clock.
Do the Gillises go out for breakfast every morning at this time?
Almost every morning.
What about day before yesterday?
When the little one disappeared,
Yeah.
see, it was the same hour.
Uh-huh. Tell me, Morris, do you remember seeing anyone on this floor that morning?
You know one who did not have a business here?
But there was someone?
See.
Near the Gillis apartment?
Where you stand, waiting at the meeting.
Well, who was it, you know?
Oh, no, I don't know his name.
Yeah.
He's such a nice gentleman, and he carried what I know was another present for Mr. Gillis. I told him they were out for their breakfast, and he went away.
You still haven't told me who it was, Morris.
My heavens, senor. Who else would bring Mr. Gillis such a pretty box or such a beautiful gift? Who else but the gentleman she's soon to marry?
Now, Act Two of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, and the Ming Toy Murphy Matter.
People in love usually keep odd hours, so I wasn't surprised that Morris, the janitor, had seen Marion Gillis's fiancée outside the apartment the morning the dog, canine, had disappeared. I thanked Morris for his help, went back downstairs to my cab, where I saw the Gillises walking toward me from First Avenue.
Morning, Dollar.
Morning.
Sorry we're late. Got to gabbing over that second cup of coffee.
Better not let your doctor hear you say that.
No, Marion, be still. Yes, you ready, Dollar?
Ready and waiting, Mr. Gillis.
And then let's go. I got a few things I can't wait to say to Mr. Iron Mike Murphy.
Now remember, Dad, no excitement.
I'll remember.
Marion,
Yes.
are you going to be busy around noon?
No, I don't think so far.
Just thought we might have lunch together.
21?
Anywhere you like.
Say 12:30?
Perfect. See you then. According to Mr. Gillis, Iron Mike Murphy didn't know that Ming Toy was missing, so it was going to be interesting to see his reactions when we told him. The Murphy home was spread across a couple of acres near Great Neck. The main house was a large two-story brick affair with a tack room, swimming pool, and the kennels behind it. For Iron Mike pursued his hobby of raising Pekingese dogs. We found Murphy at the kennel.
Well, Gillis, you lying, thieving devil.
You hold your tongue, Mike.
What are you doing out here anyway?
I came along to help Mr. Dollar. He doesn't know you like I do, so he wouldn't be able to tell when you're lying like I can.
I suppose you think that's funny. Dollar, you know what this man did to me? He stole a wonderful little dog right out from under me nose.
And you stole her back.
Oh, what do you mean by
You
that?
know what I mean. The day after you called me on the phone, you saw that ad in the paper. Well, the next day, somebody stole Ming Toy. And I'm sure it was you. You shanty Irishman.
Why, you dirty-minded evil old man. I've half a mind to take a horsewhip to you for saying such a thing.
Oh, you deny it,
Of course I deny it. And you say it again, I'll deny it with me fist.
Oh, is that so? Well, I whipped you when you were in the steel mills, and I can whip you now. Look out, fella.
Oh, Mr. Gillis, remember what your daughter said.
Defend yourself, Murphy.
Mr. Gillis.
Bring yourself at me, Gillis.
Taxi! Mr. Gillis, please, Mr. Murphy.
Here I come. Justice triumph.
Oh.
Ow. Call me names, will
Hey,
you?
driver, over here. When it was over, Mr. Gillis had a black eye and Murphy a bloody nose. Gillis and I went back to town. Paid there $12. That's item 6. After seeing Mr. Gillis safely to his apartment, I went across town to the 21. Marion arrived. We were shown to a table, and I told her as quickly as I could what had happened at the Murphy home.
Johnny, you know Father isn't supposed to get excited.
I know, he knows, and I tried to stop him, but he went...
so upset over losing Ming or anything else. Well, especially something as strenuous as a fight. Well, it might prove to be too much.
Oh, he's all right, believe me.
Well, I'll call him in a few minutes to be sure.
Marion, this morning while I was waiting for you to come back from breakfast, I had a talk with Morris, the super at your apartment.
No?
Yeah, he,
Marion, darling.
Oh, well, I told Bill to join us, Johnny. I hope you don't mind.
No, of course not. Sit down.
No, thanks.
Johnny's been out all morning with Dad.
Oh? Hunting for the dog, huh?
That's right.
Any luck?
I'm not sure.
Excuse us, Bill. But what does Morris have to say, Johnny?
Oh, it wasn't important.
Don't try lying to me, Johnny Dollar. I know you too well. Now, you tell us what Morris have to say.
Bill, the morning the dog disappeared, you were at Marion's apartment, weren't you?
Of course he wasn't.
Bill?
Day before yesterday? No.
You sure?
Positive. I was in my office all morning.
What time did you get there? You remember?
Yes, we've been very busy lately getting the big shock ready for the air. It was about 8:45.
Your secretary will swear to that?
Naturally.
Johnny, what's this all...
Excuse me.
Where are you
I'll
going?
make a couple of phone calls. Be right back. I called Bill's office, spoke to his secretary, and of course he had lied. Instead of going back to the table, I took a cab to my hotel, made a couple of more phone calls, and waited. About 40 minutes later, Bill Fisher called and asked me to meet him in a bar near Rockefeller Center.
You like a drink, Johnny?
No, thanks. Not right now.
No? I figured you'd be thirsty. You've been such a busy little boy.
Ah, what do you mean?
You know what I mean. Calling my secretary, then calling the Happy Hollow people to find out whose idea it was to advertise offering $50,000 for a talking dog.
Oh, I wouldn't be ashamed of having that idea if I were you. It's a good one.
Except for one thing. It was meant strictly for the publicity value. Nobody ever heard of a dog that could really talk, so I guaranteed them their $50,000 would be safe.
Go on.
See, it was tough enough getting the Happy Hollow people to put a show on TV in the first place. They really don't have that kind of money. And if they'd had to pay out the $50,000 on top of everything else, well, that would be it. We'd lose their account. I'd lose my job.
Uh-huh. So what did you do with Ming Toy?
Well, naturally, since she could talk, I had to get rid of her. You understand that, don't you?
How did you get into the Gillis apartment?
That was easy. I'd been there the night before. When I left, I slipped the latch so the door wouldn't lock. When they went out to breakfast the next morning, I went in. I was going to put her in that box and carry her out, but she put up such a fuss, I just tossed her out the window.
Into the river?
Yes, Dollar, into the East River. Well, what can I do about it? After all, Ming Toy was only a dog. It wasn't like she was a person. Well, what can I do about it?
I'm not sure. But whatever it is, I hope it's plenty. I left him there and walked down 6th Avenue. When I reached the corner of 51st, I called Marion and asked her to meet me in a little park near her apartment building. Somehow I told her, as simply and directly as I could.
Well, it's kind of funny, isn't it, Johnny?
I don't know. Isn't?
Sure. If I hadn't met Bill, none of this would ever have happened. Dad would still be feeling chipper. I might have been engaged to somebody else. Maybe even a nice guy like you. And why do things like this have to happen?
I don't know, Marion. I just don't know. We were about a block away from her apartment when we heard the ambulance. We watched it turn into 51st Street, then stop. Then we were running.
Johnny, it's Dad. I know it.
No, you don't know any such thing.
Oh,
All right, folks, all right. Now keep back. Give the men room to work.
Johnny, they're not going into the building.
No, they're doing something out there in the middle of the street. Officer! Officer, what's happened?
It sounds like a little girl's caught down there under the street.
Under the street?
Yeah, lady, in the drain pipe that goes down to the river.
Are you sure it's a little girl and not a dog?
You kidding? Dogs can't talk like that.
Like what?
Well, it sounds like she's trying to say something about a dog food being yum, yum, yummy.
Get your father, Marion.
Yes, oh, yes.
Excuse me.
Hey, come back here.
I joined the power and water men who had lifted up a manhole cover and put down a ladder. It didn't take us long under the street, just a couple of minutes. Then we climbed back out again.
Johnny!
Dollar, where is she? Where's my baby?
She's still down there, Mr. Gillis.
You left her. Dollar, she's not.
No, sir, she's fine.
Then why didn't you bring her back?
Well, maybe you'd better look for yourself, Mr. Gillis.
All right, I'll do just that.
Dad, you can't.
You just try stopping me, won't you? Come on, Dollar. Come on. Kenny.
Careful now, Mr. Gillis.
Yes.
Watch your step here.
Don't you worry about me. You just look out for yourself.
Yes, sir, I am.
Dollar. Do you hear? She's saying happy Holly dog food.
Yes, sir.
By George, boy. Here, let me down here. Where is she? Where's my little sweetheart?
This way, Mr. Gillis.
Hello, you little rascal, you. Yummy.
Careful now, Mr. Gillis. She's under this water pipe.
This one right here.
Yes, sir. You'll have to stoop down to see her.
What's that meaning sound out? She. Well, I'll be jigs with it. Puppies, Dollar.
Yes, sir. 6 of them.
Yes, well, that little rascal. Puppies. So that's why she disappeared, huh? To have her family. Oh, she called me Papa. Papa? Well, you naughty little girl. By golly. Papa. Well, sir, by golly. Well, who'd have thought?
I guess Ming Toy did, sir.
Yes, he must have. Yes, indeed. Oh, Papa. Look, Johnny, I'm a grandfather.
I never did tell Gillis exactly how Ming Toy had been helped out of the apartment. All he knew was that Marion, for reasons of her own, had called off her engagement to Bill. Ming Toy spent a week in bed recovering from her ordeal, and naturally, since Gillis refused to let her appear on TV that night, the $50,000 went unclaimed. And, alas, the long-suffering public has yet to hear the dulcet tones of a talking dog named Ming Toy Murphy. Expense account total, including hotel, incidentals, and transportation back to Hartford, $225.70. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Now, here is our star to tell you about next week's story.
Next week, a vessel that was lost at sea suddenly turns up, thanks to the true love of my gay young life. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, originates in Hollywood. Written by Charles Smith, it is produced and directed by Jack Armstrong. Heard in our cast were Virginia Gregg, G. Stanley Jones, Herb Ellis, Joseph Kearns, Jay Novello, Bill James, and Howard McNear. Musical supervision is by Amerigo Marino. Be sure to join us next week, same time and station, for another exciting story of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. This is Dan Cubberly speaking. From Hollywood, it's time now for...
Johnny Dollar.
This is Harry Branson at Philadelphia Mutual Life and Casualty Company.
Oh, hello, Harry. What's with you?
John, I have a case I'd like you to handle for us. It's somewhat unusual.
Have you ever handed me one that wasn't completely screwy?
I said unusual.
And I said screwy. So now that we understand each other, what's it all about?
Well, absolutely nothing yet. But I'm very apprehensive about one of our clients.
Oh, Harry, you're the biggest worrywart I ever knew.
What was that?
I said, who is this client?
Oh, Dr. Walter Merrill.
Merrill? The scientist?
That's right.
Nobel Prize winner? The man who worked out the molecular orbital contraction something or other?
Yes, that's the one. As I say, John, I'm worried.
Well, who wouldn't be about him? I'll be right down to see you.
Bob Bailey in the exciting adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Philadelphia Mutual Life and Casualty Insurance Company in Philadelphia. Where else? Following is an account of expenses incurred during my investigation of the clever chemist matter. Expense of transportation and incidentals, Hartford to New York to Philadelphia. I didn't even stop to check my bag, but headed directly for the Philly Mutual building on Walnut Street. Harry Branson is a good insurance man, but a great worrier. Nonetheless, he'd given me some pretty important, too. And after all, what do we live for? There you are. Keep the change.
Thanks, Doc.
John, what took you so long?
Oh, now, what's the matter, Harry? Forget to pay the rent on your office or just forgot the key?
No, John, as a matter of fact, I have the key right... This is hardly the place for levity.
Well, surely you haven't been waiting here on the sidewalk ever since you called me.
No, I haven't, but by checking plane schedules, I was able to determine when you'd arrive almost to the minute, and not wanting to waste time taking you upstairs to the office.
Pretty urgent matter, huh?
For you should be here shortly.
What? Well, now, usually I arrange these things myself, Harry.
Yes, and how we pay of you.
Oh, Harry, you touched me to the quick.
Oh, now, please don't misunderstand me. I don't mean that there's ever anything really dishonest about
You
your
don't?
expense account.
Well,
It's only...
you ought to. Believe me, I'll pad it to the hilt if I think I can get away with it.
Anyway, the most important reason for engaging the car was so that you can leave immediate...
Malaga?
Yes, New Jersey. It's a...
Oh, is that where Dr. Merrill is?
Yes, as is his custom, he chooses to work in some isolated spot where he can't possibly be disturbed. He and his colleague, that is.
Colleague? I always heard that he worked alone, freelance.
And you heard right. However, he now has a Professor Theodore Nash with him.
Nash?
One of according to Dr. Merrill.
Never heard of him.
John, they're working together on what I'm sure is some top secret project.
Oh? Oh, say, wait. Didn't Merrill have something to do with the early rocket experiments?
Precisely. Which is why I suspect their present work may have something to do with the space satellite or intercontinental missiles or something of the sort.
Yeah, possible. But what has all this got to do with you?
Their insurance. Dr. Merrill has had a policy with us for some years. $25,000.
Oh, and
He took out a policy for $10,000.
beneficiary?
Nash made Dr. Merrill his beneficiary.
Oh, well, that sort of thing is often done between men working together. Harry, you know that.
Yes, so that if anything happens to one, the other will be financially able to carry on what they've started.
Sure, right.
Which is no doubt why Dr. Merrill changed the beneficiary of his policy to Theodore Nash.
So, what's the worry?
No sooner was the change made than I received a letter of protest from Dr. Merrill's daughter.
Who's she?
Mrs. Howard Harding. She and her husband live in West Philadelphia. He's a welder for an aviation company, I think.
Well, what did she base her protest on, Harry?
She claims her father must have been coerced into changing the policy.
Oh, now, wait a minute. That sounds like the hungry relative who complains about being cut out of the will.
It might. If Mrs. Harding weren't a perfectly well-balanced, intelligent, and I'm sure quite unselfish person, a completely...
Is she good-looking?
Well, yes.
And real sweet to you?
Yes, she is. Well, now, John, I don't know what you're trying to imply.
They do it every time.
John.
Particularly when there's a bit of money involved. Good-looking insurance broker like you. And you're a bachelor, too, aren't you, Harry?
Oh, John, you're pulling my leg.
Oh, Harry. But then I guess we're all suckers for someone like that.
That has nothing to do with it. I've had these hunches before, John, and they've always been right. Even you will have to admit that.
Yeah, I'll confess that in the cases I've handled for you so far. Why don't you call up Dr. Merrill?
I think the quaint old fellow would die rather than have a phone near enough to disturb him in his work. Oh, there's your rental car waiting at the curb. So off you go, John, and see what you can find out.
Okay, Harry. It all sounds like a lot of nothing you're worried about, but as long as you're willing to pay for it. And I always did like South Jersey this time of year. I drove across the Delaware River Bridge into Jersey and headed for Route 45 to Westville, Woodbury, and finally Pittman, where I picked up Route 47. What Harry had said was true. These hunches of his had a remarkable way of panning out. And yet, who was I to complain? After a pleasant hour's drive through cranberry bog and farm country, through miles of orchards and the intoxicating odor of the peach blossoms, I pulled into the quiet little town of Malaga. Population, I'd say around 500. First stop, the post office.
Dr. Merrill? Yeah, sure. You go back the way you came, about a mile, till you see the name Wampus Bung.
Wampus what?
Wampus means cat. Bung, bungalow. Wampus Bung.
Yeah.
Yeah, the doctor and the professor got the fourth cottage beyond it. White one with a fence around it.
Yeah, good, thanks.
And if you don't mind, you can take their mail out to them. They haven't been in to pick it up 4 or 5 days now.
Oh? Nothing wrong, is there?
Well, who'd know? The way those two keep to themselves. Well, you'd think whatever they're working on was the atomic bomb.
Yeah, well...
Just to be sure, you let them know that you're at the gate now before you try to go through the fence.
Oh, what's that supposed to mean?
The professor sees you prowling around, he's liable to take a shot at you.
As I drove back and toward the edge of Little Malaga Lake, the idea of getting shot at by anyone living in this peaceful, quiet place seemed ridiculous. The lake itself, by the way, looked pretty inviting. I made a mental note to come back here on my own sometime after the fishing season opened. As the postmaster had indicated, the fourth cottage beyond Wampus Bung was heavily fenced in, so I gave notice of my arrival. I'd barely left the car when the door of the little cottage opened.
Yes? Who is it?
Dr. Merrill?
Oh, yes.
My name is Dollar, sir. Johnny Dollar, insurance investigator.
Harry Branson?
Yes, sir, that's right. Harry Branson sent me down here to see you.
Oh, come in. I'm most glad to see you. Please, come into the house.
All right, thank you. Is, Professor Nash here?
In the laboratory. But please,
As
come
he spoke,
into
the sliding
house.
door on the garage at the side of the house opened. A rather swarthy man stepped out, quickly closed the door, and threw a heavy bolt on it. Then looked over toward us suspiciously.
Yes, because it's better that you and I talk in private, alone.
Doctor, who is that?
Oh, yes, Professor.
If we have a visitor, why do you not bring him here where we can both speak to him?
Oh, yes, of course. This is Mr. Johnny Dollar, Professor Theodore Nash.
Mr. Dollar?
How do, Professor? I'm from your insurance company. Just making a little routine checkup.
Oh, fine. I'm very glad to see you. As a matter of fact, I wish to talk with you. How do you do? Now, come into the laboratory.
Professor, do you think it
Oh,
wise?
of course, Doctor. Since he is not a man of science, I'm sure there is no harm in his seeing it. And you have an experiment going, remember?
But I wish to
Mr.
speak
Dollar,
to him alone.
within these four walls, the genius of Dr. Merrill and my own poor efforts are creating things that will startle the world.
Outside, the small building looked like an ordinary two-car garage, someone in need of paint and repair. But inside, it was immaculate and loaded with scientific equipment of all shapes and sorts and sizes. There were racks of test tubes, bottles of chemicals, beakers, a centrifuge, machines and apparatus I'd never seen before, that I imagine much of the world never dreamed of. And all of it as neat as a pin, not so much as a stirring rod out of place.
Look, Doctor. The polymerization step is almost complete.
Eh?
Now, you must continue the molecular balance check immediately.
Oh, yes. And you must both leave me. This must not be seen by anyone.
Now, we understand, Doctor. We understand.
I hope you will pardon me, Mr. Dollar.
Yes, of course, Doctor.
Oh, come, Mr. Dollar.
Yes, I will lock the door. Yes.
He does require privacy, doesn't he?
Yes.
Oh, hey, you're not going to bolt that door, are you?
Oh, of course not. Force of habit, I guess. Oh, it is he who keeps things locked so tightly when he is working, unnecessarily so. But then genius is permitted his idiosyncrasies, huh?
Harry Branson seems to think you two may be working on something to do with guided missiles.
Very perceptive man. But that is something we must not speak about. Now, why have you come here, Mr. Dollar?
Well, like I said, just a routine checkup. We usually do this when a sizable policy has changed.
Oh, there is something unusual about two men working together on important things, ensuring in each other's favor?
Well, no.
But when his daughter perhaps objects.
You know Dr. Merrill's daughter?
Oh, I know about her and about her unfortunate marriage to that day laborer.
Nothing wrong with day labor, Professor.
Yeah, but one who waits for a great man like the doctor to die so that he can get his hands on the insurance money.
You think that's why his daughter objected to the change?
Of course. But his money will be used to further his work by me. And, of course, for the good of humanity.
I see. Well, how soon do you think the doctor will be through with his experiment?
An hour, perhaps two. And then he will call me in to assist him with the next, the crucial step. But now, about this
look, why don't I
insurance-
run in town, arrange for a place to stay, grab a bite to eat, and then come back here, huh?
If you like. I'm sorry we have no room in the cottage.
No,
to
don't
put
give it
you
a
up.
second thought. I'll see you later. Something of Harry Branson's hunch had passed on to me. A strange feeling about the whole setup. There was something wrong about both Merrill and Nash, particularly the latter. Something I couldn't quite put my finger on. Was Dr. Merrill afraid of Nash? I don't know. Item 2, $1 even for a quick bite in a little cafe along the highway after I'd made arrangements for a room for the night in a private home. It was not much over an hour later when I drove back to the little cottage by the lake. And then I heard it. Someone pounding on the door of the laboratory from the inside. Someone calling for help. Professor! But the lock's on the inside. Turn the lock. What? Bolt here on the... Oh, what are you... Oh.
Oh, thank heaven.
Good Lord, Professor. What happened to you? You look like you've been run over by... Dr. Merrill.
Oh, too late. Too late.
Professor, what happened here?
He beat me. Threw acid at me.
The doctor?
No, the man who... Then he killed the doctor with a gun. He killed him.
Who, Professor? Who?
I don't know.
Act 2 of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, in just a moment.
Democracy. To the many who have lived under tyranny, democracy comes as a guiding light, shining on a brighter future. That is because democracy stands for the establishment of government conceived from deep thought and free choice, rather than being based on accident and force. It is also normal that the free choice of a democratic government happens because people who choose their own government are directed by true interests in the welfare of mankind. Democracy has been proven to be mankind's greatest legacy of freedom.
Now, Act 2 of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, and the clever chemist matter.
Expense account item 3, $10 for the services of one Dr. Frederick Foote, the only resident medico in the little town of Malaga, New Jersey. After pronouncing Dr. Walter Merrill dead, he took the badly beaten Professor Nash to his office clinic. While waiting for Nash to get in good enough shape to talk, I ran up item 4, 10 cents, phone call to the sheriff, who promised to come over as soon as he could enlist the aid of the nearby state police. Finally, Dr. Foote gave the word.
But I suggest you talk with him as little as possible, Mr. Dollar.
In pretty bad shape, huh, Dr. Foote?
The intruder not only beat him severely, but threw a bottle of acid in his face.
Oh?
Professor Nash will never have the use of his left eye again because of that nitric acid.
Has Nash said anything that might help us identify the assailant and killer?
No? Now, please don't talk with him too long. Professor?
Yes. Yes.
Hello, Professor.
Oh, Mr. Dollar. I will never see again with my left eye. He has told me.
Yes, I know. I'm sorry.
But the great Dr. Merrill, he is dead. What a loss.
Professor, tell me, did you see the man who attacked you?
Yes.
Can you describe him at all?
Yes, young, not more than 30, 5 feet, 6 or 8, very heavy,
Yes.
stocky, and black curly hair.
Yeah?
Hands like working man, laborer.
Have you ever seen this man before?
No,
Oh, here. Some water.
Thank you.
Do you know why he came in and attacked you and Dr. Merrill?
No.
Was he after something there in the laboratory?
No, only to kill Dr. Merrill. I tried to defend him.
I'm sorry, Mr. Dollar, but I think that's enough.
Yes, okay, Dr. Foote. I think I've heard enough. I managed to get back to the cottage by the lake before the police arrived and came up with one very damning piece of evidence. In one of the bedrooms, I found a picture of a wedding couple. It was inscribed, "Love to the dearest father in the world." And next to the bride stood a man who answered perfectly the description Professor Nash had just given me. The husband of Dr. Merrill's daughter, Howard Harding. And then I thought of what Nash had said about Harding. His antagonism, his conviction that Harding was the one who resented the change in the insurance policy. But there was something else, too. That had happened when I talked with Nash in the doctor's office that... By the time I got back to the laboratory, the sheriff and state police arrived. The sheriff, I'm afraid, mussed up any prints that might have been left on the bottle of acid. However, in the weeds outside, a state trooper found the pistol, a .38 caliber Luger that had killed Dr. Merrill. Fingerprints had apparently been wiped off, but the gun was carefully... Fingerprints. Before taking off on a mad dash back to Philadelphia, I stopped at Dr. Foote's and picked up one water tumbler. Item 5, $3.70 for a tank full of gas. Item 6, 50 cents. Parking in Philadelphia as close as possible to Harry Branson's office.
John, what have you found out about Dr. Merrill?
Harry, he's dead.
Well, oh, dear.
Now listen, write down the address of Mr. and Mrs. Howard Harding for me.
His daughter, does she know?
No, she doesn't know yet, and I hope I can avoid telling her before I write it down, will you, man?
Well, yes, of course.
Take
but,
this. Don't unwrap it, but see that it gets to Ray Kemper at the Federal Bureau fast. I'll check with him about it later, thanks.
But now, John...
Harry, this is one time this expense account of mine is going to save you a lot of money. I think. I don't know how many red lights I skipped on the drive out to West Philadelphia, but I felt like a hound dog in a hot scent. The home of Mr. and Mrs. Howard Harding turned out to be in a nice, quiet residential area. I was met at the door by the girl in the wedding picture, a tall, very nice-looking blonde in her late 20s.
Oh, yes?
Mrs. Harding?
I'm Terry Harding.
Well, I'm Johnny Dollar from your father's insurance company.
Oh, good. Come in. Perhaps you can help me make him do something about that policy of his.
Well, that isn't exactly...
Someone has poisoned Daddy's mind, Mr. Dollar.
Oh? What do you mean?
Well, it isn't that I need the money if Daddy dies, which heaven forbid.
No. It doesn't exactly look as though you do.
No, of course we don't. Howard's been doing so wonderfully at Colonial Aviation.
Yes, apparently. And I'd had a notion he was just a laborer or something.
Oh, dear, no. That's what Daddy called him because he wasn't too fond of Howard. And that is the way Howard started before we were married, but now he's one of the officers of the company.
Where is he, Mrs. Harding?
Well, as a matter of fact, I thought you were Howard when you drove up just now. He's been fishing.
Fishing?
On some little lake over in Jersey. He goes every Saturday all by himself.
Malaga Lake?
No, Malaga's where Daddy works. Mm-hmm. He and that.
That what, Mrs. Harding?
Well, I don't know. It's Howard, I guess.
What do you mean?
Howard has never liked or trusted him, even though they've never actually met. When Daddy changed his insurance to name that professor, there is something wrong about that man, Mr. Dollar.
What, Mrs. Harding?
I don't know. Daddy always worked alone until he came along. Daddy's such an alert, bright-eyed little busybody in spite of his
Wait a
age.
minute. Your father...
Like a cute little wound-up spring, hopping about like a...
Mrs. Harding.
Yes?
Mrs. Harding, when I saw your father...
You've seen Daddy. Well, then you know what I mean.
He was tired. Almost in a daze. He spoke with difficulty.
Oh, no, you're mistaken. He chatters away like a jaybird. What is it, Mr. Dollar?
Well, he must have been doped. He looked as though...
Hi, honey. Well, I'm just as lousy a fisherman as usual. Not a single... Oh, excuse me.
Mr. Harding, just tell me one thing.
Well, that depends. Who are you?
Mr. Dollar's from the insurance company, darling.
Not Johnny Dollar.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I've certainly heard of you. Tell me...
No, you tell me, Harding. Where have you been?
Why, fishing.
Where?
Over in Jersey.
Where in Jersey?
Little private lake.
Where?
Over near Mount Holly. One place I know of where nobody else ever goes, where I can get rid of the cobwebs at my job. Hey, wait a minute, Dollar. What is this?
Harding, you've been identified as the man who murdered Dr. Walter Merrill.
What?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Harding. I'm sorry, but it's true.
No,
what are you talking about, Dollar?
You didn't know about it?
Of course not. How could I? Where did it happen? How?
At his place in Malaga.
Oh.
Professor Nash. I'll kill that man.
You'll take it easy. You seem to forget that so far you're the only suspect in the case.
You're out of your mind. If it was anybody, it was that Nash. Never have trusted that man. And the insurance policy. If anybody killed Dr. Merrill, it was that professor.
Now listen to me. Nash was with Dr. Merrill when he was killed, there in his laboratory.
Of course he was.
But Nash was attacked also, beaten, acid thrown at him. He lost the sight of one eye because of it.
And I tell you... You're sure?
Yes, of course I'm sure. It was I who found them. Nash beating against the inside of the door of that laboratory, crying for help. A door that was bolted on the outside.
But, Dollar, You're sure of that?
I'm sure.
Well, I still think... Oh, Terry, I'm sorry, honey. Here, let me...
Oh, it's so terrible.
Better answer that phone, Howard.
Yeah. Hello? Yes? Oh, yes. It's for you, Mr. Dollar.
Oh, thanks.
Terry, come on. You've got to pull yourself together.
Johnny Dollar.
Right.
John, this is Harry Branson. I just received a call from Mr. Kemper at the Federal Bureau.
Yes.
He says he must see you immediately.
Call him back, Harry. Tell him I'll be there in 15 minutes. Harding, just to keep things straight, I wouldn't leave this house if I were you.
Well, now, wait a minute,
Just
Dollar.
sit tight. I think you're in the clear. More red lights got passed up on my way into the Philadelphia offices of the Bureau. So Ray Kemper felt that whatever he'd found was important. If so, it would back up one of my suspicions. But in view of the circumstances, that bolted door in the laboratory, for instance, how could it?
Important is putting it mildly, Johnny.
The prints you found on the water glass, Ray.
3 sets. 1, yours.
Yeah, well, naturally.
2, Dr. Frederick Foote, who is currently practicing medicine.
I know, in the town of Malaga, New Jersey. That's where the glass came from.
Oh, but the 3rd set of prints.
Yes.
I had to go into the international file for them. And Johnny...
Nash? Theodore Nash?
Nash. Nashevsky.
What?
Theodore Nashevsky. Chemist from one of our not-so-friendly countries.
Huh?
Expert on explosives. At one time, he was thought to have attempted to enter this country. That was in 1940.
Ray, have you got any pictures on him?
Plenty. From the time he was a kid. Here. Tell me how you picked up these prints.
The beard in this picture. That looks like him, all right. Yeah, this too. With a shaved head. Almost as though he tried to keep changing his appearance.
Johnny...
Oh, wait a sec. This picture of him as a youngster, this eye patch on his left eye.
Our dossier is pretty complete. He was quite an athlete until he injured that eye.
But it doesn't show in these other pictures, and he hasn't a glass eye.
No, his eye always looked perfectly natural. Now, Johnny, if you have information...
Ray, this has done it for me. Thanks.
Hey, now, just a
I'll
minute.
see you.
Hey, Johnny! This is Kemper. Give me a man to tail Johnny Dollar.
All the way back to Malaga, New Jersey, I hoped my rental car would hold together. It did, in spite of the fact I pushed it all the way. International intrigue is a bit out of my line, but this time, so help me, I was beginning to feel like an FBI man. I stopped at state police headquarters along the way, and according to them, Nash was off the hook. Not only because of the acid thrown in his face, but even more important, because of my own testimony that I'd found them locked in that laboratory. I stopped again at the lab. Nothing. Then back to Dr. Foote's office.
Very well, Mr. Dollar. When they arrive, I'll insist that they wait for you.
All right, thanks, Doctor. Well, Professor, you're sitting up.
Oh, have they found anything, Mr. Dollar? Have they found the man who attacked us and killed poor Dr. Merrill?
Professor, I think I have.
Oh?
But tell me something.
Yes, of course.
Your government doesn't pay you very well, does it?
Merrill and I were not working for the government, Mr. Dollar. Although, of course, the results of our work...
I'm talking about your government, your own real boss.
I do not understand.
No doubt it's very much interested in anything this country develops in the line of guided missiles, that sort of thing.
Mr. Dollar.
Now, let me go on. Merrill was doing important work. Stuff that would be of great value to any country in the world.
Of course.
Your country would have paid you well for the results of his work. But, brother, they'll never get it.
I do not know what you are talking
Money,
about.
the loot from Merrill's insurance, sure. Sure, it was enough to get you out of here after you'd gained the knowledge you need of Merrill's work.
See here, Dollar.
After you'd killed him, before he could give to his country, the United States, what he'd invented.
You are a fool. I was beaten,
The poor
too.
old man put up a pretty stiff fight, didn't he?
Do you think I would have done this to myself?
You
My
gave
eye...
yourself away earlier when you reached out for a glass of water I handed you right here in this room. A man who'd lost his sight in one eye would have lost his aim until he got used to it. Funny, though, it didn't come to me until
You
later.
are mad.
You haven't seen out of that left eye since you were a kid.
I tell you, you are mad.
And a little acid burn to make it look like somebody had thrown it at you would be well worth the alibi it gave you. Fyodor. That's right, Fyodor Nashevsky.
Listen to me. You were the one who found us locked in, the door bolted from the outside. You found us.
Yeah. Also the cord, the string you used to pull the bolt to. That you looped over the bolt and pulled after you got inside.
You couldn't have. I dropped it in the vat of acid.
Yeah. Thanks. I was bluffing. But I made a lucky guess.
What?
Oh, what a brain. Nashevsky, I'm sure glad you're not working on our side. The capsule he fished out of his pocket never got to his mouth. And I'm afraid he won't see very well out of his other eye for a while. My knuckles still hurt. And it was lucky for him that the police arrived. I'm afraid I don't like guys like him. Expense account total, including all the incidentals I could think of, and transportation back to Hartford, $84.35. Remarks? Well, don't beef on this one, Harry. The criminal, in spite of being the named beneficiary, doesn't get paid. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Now, here is our star to tell you about next week's story.
Next week, a real close look at a little-known but very dramatic side of Hollywood. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, originates in Hollywood. It is produced and directed by Jack Johnstone, who also wrote tonight's story. Heard in our cast were Virginia Gregg, Harry Bartell, Howard McNear, Forrest Lewis, Jack Crucian, Russell Thorson, Frank Gersel, and Bob Bruce. Musical supervision is by Amerigo Marino. Be sure to join us next week, same time and station, for another exciting story of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Johnny Dollar has come to you through the worldwide facilities of the United States Armed Forces Radio and Television Service.